Listen carefully because what I'm about to say matters more than you think. If you are 40 years old and broke, or 50 and struggling, or 60 and lying awake at night panicking about retirement, you need to hear every single word that follows. I don't say this lightly. I've watched this exact pattern repeat itself for 95 years. People reach their 40s and suddenly wake up to the realization that they are behind, far behind. No savings, no investments, living paycheck to paycheck. And the thought that hits them hardest is this: it's too late. They believe the game is already over. They convince themselves that wealth is reserved for people who started younger, had more money, or simply got lucky. They are wrong, completely wrong. And I'm going to show you why, starting right now. I am 95 years old. Over my lifetime, I have built more than $100 billion in wealth. And here's what most people never realize. The most important wealth-building years of my life were not my 20s or my 30s. They came much later, my 50s, my 60s, my 70s, and even beyond. Because wealth does not care when you begin. It only cares that you do begin, and even more importantly, that you begin correctly. I've seen people start at 20 and fail miserably, and I've seen people start at 50 and go on to become millionaires. The difference was never age. The difference was strategy, discipline, making the right decisions starting now, today, this very moment. So if you are 40 and broke or anywhere close to it, do not turn this video off. Do not tell yourself it's too late, because what I am about to share with you has the power to transform the next 20, 30, even 40 years of your life. These are not theories. This is not speculation. This is exactly what works. It's what has always worked, and it will work for you too if you commit to it. Let's begin. The first thing you must understand when you are starting late is this: time is both your enemy and your ally. That may sound like a contradiction, so let me explain. When you are 40 and broke, you do not have the luxury of 40 years until retirement like a 20-year-old does. You may have 25 years, maybe 30 if you choose to work longer. That is the enemy. Less time means less compounding. But here is where time becomes your friend. At 40, you are also in, or very near, your peak earning years. A 40-year-old typically earns far more than a 20-year-old. You have experience, you have skills, you have an established career. That means you can save more, invest more, and contribute more than younger people can. You may have less time, but you have greater earning power, and you must use it. Here is the math that can save your future. If you are 40 years old and you invest $500 a month at an average return of 10% for 25 years, you will have roughly $650,000 by age 65. That may not sound like extraordinary wealth, but it is not poverty either. That is retirement. That is security. That is options. And now it gets more interesting. If instead you invest $1,000 a month over the same period at the same return, you end up with about $1.3 million. And if you are truly serious, if you push harder and invest $1,500 a month, you are looking at nearly $2 million by retirement, starting from zero. That is not fantasy. That is compound interest. That is math. That is reality, if you commit to it. I hear people say, I can't invest $500 or $1,000 a month. I'm broke. Bills are tight. There's nothing left. And my response is always the same. Then you are living wrong, because if you cannot find money to invest, you will never build wealth, period. It does not matter whether you earn $50,000 a year or $500,000 a year. If you spend everything you make, you will remain broke forever. The first step is not earning more money. The first step is spending less money. Cut ruthlessly. Live as though you earn half of what you actually earn and invest the difference. The second thing you need to understand is this: debt will destroy you, especially at 40. If you are broke at 40, chances are high that you are carrying debt, credit cards, car loans, maybe even student loans that should have been gone years ago. And that debt is silently charging you 15, 20, sometimes 25% interest every single year. You cannot build wealth while paying those kinds of rates. It is impossible. I don't care how good your investments are. If your debt is costing you 20% and your investments are earning 10%, you are losing 10% every year. You are moving backward. So here's what you must do before you invest even $1. Eliminate high-interest debt, all of it. Start with credit cards, then personal loans, then car loans. If the interest rate is high, it has to go. This will not feel exciting. It will not make you feel rich. But it is the foundation. You cannot build a house on quicksand, and debt is financial quicksand. It drags you down while you are trying to climb up. I have never carried credit card debt in my life. Not once. I pay cash for everything. If I cannot afford something with cash, I do not buy it. And I am worth over $100 billion. If I don't need to borrow money at 20% interest, you certainly don't either. Get out of debt. Stay out of debt. This is non-negotiable if you want to build wealth. The third thing is this: invest in yourself before anything else. You are 40 years old. You still have 25 years of earning ahead of you, possibly more. That is your greatest asset. Not your house, not your car, not a stock or a fund. Your greatest asset is your ability to earn, your skills, your knowledge, your experience. If you can increase your income by just 10 or 20%, the impact over 25 years is life-changing. A person earning $50,000 who increases their income to $60,000 adds roughly $250,000 in earnings over 25 years before even factoring in investment returns. That can translate into millions over time from a single raise, a promotion, or one new skill. So invest in yourself. Take courses. Learn in-demand skills. Get certifications. Change careers if you need to. At 40, you are not too old to reinvent yourself. You are at the perfect age, experienced enough to know what you are doing, and young enough to benefit from decades of higher earnings. I have always believed that the best investment you can make is in your own abilities. No one can tax it, no one can steal it, and it pays dividends for the rest of your life. The fourth thing about starting at 40 is this: you cannot afford expensive mistakes. A 20-year-old who loses money has 40 years to recover. A 40-year-old has closer to 25. That difference is enormous, which means you must be more careful, more disciplined, and more strategic than younger investors. This does not mean avoiding investing altogether. It means investing wisely. No gambling, no crypto speculation, no hot stock tips, no get-rich-quick schemes. None of it. Instead, focus on low-cost index funds, specifically S&P 500 index funds. These represent ownership in 500 of America's largest companies. You own a piece of all of them. They are diversified, stable, and proven. Historically, the S&P 500 has returned about 10% annually over long periods of time, not every year. Some years are down, some years are exceptional, but over time that average holds. And when 10% compounds over 25 years, every dollar becomes 10. Every $10,000 becomes $100,000. Every $100,000 becomes $1 million. That is not speculation. That is history. I have recommended index funds for decades. For most people, they are the best investment they will ever make. Better than trying to pick individual stocks. Better than paying high fees to fund managers. Better than chasing trends. Just steady, boring, reliable returns. That is how wealth is built at 40, not through excitement, but through consistency. The fifth thing is this: build an emergency fund before you invest aggressively. I know this sounds backwards. You feel behind on retirement, and I am telling you to hold cash instead of investing it. But listen closely. If you are 40 and broke, you probably do not have savings. That means the first market downturn, the first car repair, or the first medical bill will send you into panic. You will sell investments at a loss to cover emergencies, or worse, you will go back into credit card debt. Either way, your wealth building plan collapses. Before you invest aggressively, build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Cash, kept in a high-yield savings account. Accessible, safe, boring. This money is not designed to make you rich. It is designed to keep you from becoming broke again. It is protection against bad luck, bad timing, and unexpected events. Once you have this cushion, you can invest with confidence. You will not be forced to sell during market crashes. You can hold through downturns because real wealth is built by those who can afford to wait. The sixth thing you need to understand if you are 40 and broke is that you must maximize every possible tax advantage available to you. You are playing catch-up. You cannot afford to waste money on taxes you do not have to pay, so you must use retirement accounts correctly and aggressively. If your employer offers a 401k with a matching contribution, you must contribute at least enough to receive the full match. That match is free money. If your employer matches 50 cents for every dollar you contribute up to 6% of your salary, and you are not contributing 6%, you are leaving free money on the table. That is irrational. Beyond the match, you should aim to maximize contributions if possible. As of 2025, you can contribute up to $23,000 per year into a 401k. If you are 50 or older, you are allowed an additional $7,500 in catch-up contributions. That is $30,500 per year, growing tax-deferred, without the drag of yearly taxation. Over 15 or 20 years, that difference becomes enormous. The same applies to IRAs. You can contribute up to $7,000 per year, or $8,000 if you are 50 or older. Every dollar you place into these accounts grows tax-free or tax-deferred. That advantage compounds just like your investments do. Over time, it becomes massive. The seventh thing you must address is housing costs. I know you are 40, you probably want a nice house, a big yard, a good neighborhood, something that looks impressive to friends and family. But here's the truth. Your house is either helping build your wealth or actively destroying it. And for most 40-year-olds who are broke, it is destroying it. They bought too much house. They are house poor. Every dollar goes toward the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Nothing is left to invest. I bought my home in 1958 for $31,500, and I still live there today. I could have upgraded hundreds of times. I could afford any house in the world. But I never saw the point. My home is comfortable. It is paid off. It costs very little to maintain. And because I kept housing expenses low, I always had money available to invest. That is what built my wealth. Not my house, but my investments. Your home should be a place to live, not a machine that destroys your future. If your housing costs consume more than 25% of your gross income, you are in trouble. Downsize. Move somewhere less expensive. Do whatever is necessary to free up cash for investing. The eighth thing is simple but powerful. Never have a car payment. I have never purchased a brand new car. I drive used vehicles until they can no longer run. People assume this is because I am cheap. That is incorrect. It is because I am smart. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses about 20% of its value. 20% gone in minutes. Over the next 5 years, it loses roughly 60% of its value. You pay $40,000 for something that quickly becomes worth $16,000. If you finance it, you pay even more because of interest. Now compare that to a 5-year-old used car that has already depreciated. You buy it for $16,000. It still has years of life left. It gets you to work just as reliably as the new car, but it costs you $24,000 less. That $24,000, invested at 10% for 20 years, grows to approximately $165,000, all from one car decision. So if you are 40 and broke and making a car payment, sell the car. Buy something cheaper with cash. Invest the payment you no longer owe. That decision alone can fund your retirement. The ninth thing you need to accept is this: Social Security will not save you. Many people say they plan to rely on Social Security. That is financial suicide. Social Security was designed to supplement retirement income, not replace it. The average Social Security benefit is around $1,800 per month, or roughly $21,600 per year. Try living on that. It is poverty. Maybe not starvation, but poverty. No travel, no comfort, no security. Just barely surviving until the end. You need more than that. And the only way to get more is to save and invest on your own. Social Security should account for maybe 15 to 20% of your retirement income. The rest must come from your investments, your 401k, your IRA, and your taxable accounts. If you are counting on Social Security to carry you, you are planning to stay poor. Do not do that. Take control, build your own retirement. Let Social Security be a bonus, not your lifeline. The 10th thing you need to understand is this. You may need to work longer than you originally planned. I know no one likes hearing that. Everyone dreams of retiring at 62 or 65, spending their later years traveling, relaxing, and enjoying life. But if you are 40 and broke, that timeline may not be realistic, and that is okay. Working until 70 instead of 65 gives you 5 additional years of earning, 5 more years of investing, 5 more years of compound growth, and 5 fewer years of withdrawals. The math on this is enormous. On top of that, if you delay Social Security until age 70, your benefit increases by roughly 76% compared to taking it at 62. That difference alone can mean the difference between constant financial stress and genuine financial comfort. I am 95 years old and still working. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Work keeps you sharp. It keeps you engaged. It gives you purpose. Do not rush to quit, especially if quitting means being broke. Retirement should be a choice, not a necessity. The 11th thing may sound harsh, but it is important. Forget about leaving an inheritance. If you are 40 and broke, your responsibility is not to leave money to your children. Your responsibility is to make sure you are not a financial burden to them later in life. That is the real inheritance: independence, dignity, and security. Needing your children's financial help in your 80s is not success. Not needing it is. If you manage to leave something behind, that is wonderful. But it is not the goal. The goal is funding your own retirement so you can live with dignity. I am giving away 99% of my wealth to charity. My children are not inheriting billions. They are receiving enough to do anything, but not enough to do nothing. That is my philosophy. Your children do not need your money. They need you to take care of yourself. Focus on building your nest egg. Fund your retirement. Die with enough left to bury you. Anything beyond that is a bonus. The final thing about being 40 and broke is this. Start today, not tomorrow, not next month, not after you pay off one more bill or buy one more thing. Today, right now, this moment, because every single day you delay is a day of compounding you lose forever. $1 invested today at the 10% becomes about $17 in 30 years. That same dollar invested next year becomes roughly $15.50. You just lost $1.50 by waiting 1 year. Multiply that delay across thousands of dollars over many years, and you lose tens of thousands in potential wealth simply by waiting. I began investing seriously in my 30s and 40s. That is when everything accelerated. Not because the investments changed, but because the amounts grew and there was still enough time for compounding to work. You have that same opportunity. 25 years, from 40 to 65, is more than enough time to build meaningful wealth. Enough to retire comfortably, enough to live well, enough to die with dignity. But only if you begin now. So here is what you do today, this afternoon, this evening. First, calculate your net worth. Assets minus debts. Face the number, even if it is negative, especially if it is negative. You cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. Second, create a budget. Know exactly where every dollar goes. Cut anything that does not build wealth or bring genuine joy. Third, eliminate high-interest debt as fast as possible. Fourth, build your emergency fund to at least 3 months of expenses. Fifth, begin investing. Even if you start with just $100 a month, start. Open a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, or increase your 401k contribution. Buy a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Automate it. Forget about it. Let it grow month after month. Increase your investments as your income rises, as your debt falls, and as your expenses shrink. Every dollar you free up goes toward investments, not lifestyle upgrades, not bigger homes, not nicer cars. Investments. This is how you move from broke at 40 to wealthy at 65. Will you become a billionaire? Probably not. Will you be comfortable? Yes. Will you be secure? Absolutely. Will you retire with dignity? Yes. Will money dominate your thoughts every day? No. That is what 25 years of disciplined investing gives you. Not necessarily luxury, but freedom, security, options, and peace of mind. I am 95 years old. I have watched people start with nothing and build fortunes. I have watched others inherit fortunes and lose everything. Wealth is not about where you begin. It is about what you do next. If you are 40 and broke, you have made mistakes. We all have. I have made serious mistakes, lost money, made poor investments, wasted time. Mistakes only matter if you refuse to learn from them. If you refuse to change, today is your line in the sand. Today is the moment you decide that being broke at 40 does not mean being broke at 65. That starting late does not mean finishing poor. That you will do whatever it takes. Make whatever sacrifices are required. Change whatever habits must change to build wealth over the next 25 years. It will not be easy. It will demand discipline. It will require you to live differently than your friends, to drive older cars, live in smaller homes, skip expensive vacations, and say no when others say yes. But 25 years from now, those same friends may still be broke, still working, still stressed about money, and you will be free, financially secure, able to retire or continue working by choice, not necessity. That is the difference. That is what 25 years of discipline buys you. Freedom. And freedom is worth every sacrifice, every act of discipline, and every moment of temporary discomfort. So stop making excuses. Stop telling yourself it is too late. Stop blaming your past and start building your future. Right now, today. Because if you are 40 and broke and you do nothing, you will be 65 and broke. And that is a tragedy you still have time to prevent. You have time. You have earning power. You have opportunity. Use all of it, starting immediately. Your 65-year-old self is counting on you.